Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headline Edition. All the AI headline news you need in around 5 minutes. Today, my friends, is a very slow news day in the world of AI. I mean, crawling relative to what we're used to. Cool thing about that is it gives me a chance to go a little bit more in depth on a story that I might not have had time to that I think is actually really important. But before I get into that, I also want to talk about why it's slow right now. Matt Wolf, AI YouTuber, podcast host, and entrepreneur, had a great tweet summarizing exactly what's going on. TLDR, this is probably the calm before the storm. Matt writes, for anyone thinking that AI is slow right now, keep in mind over the next several weeks we have Google I/O, a rumored OpenAI product event, Microsoft Build, Computex, Cisco Live, and Apple Worldwide Developer Conference. These are the events where the big announcements are made. Point being, if it feels slow, don't worry, it's not gonna for long. But because there's a little more space, I want to talk about this Apple ad that has caused so much controversy this week. If you haven't seen it, basically the goal of the ad is to show the new ultra-thin iPad as the recipient and the natural inheritor of all human creativity. The unfortunate choice they made about how to demonstrate that was they showed all of these different tools of creativity, musical instruments, synthesizers, record players, books, basically this world of analog creative devices, all smashed and crushed down to nothing, with the end result being, of course, the tiny little iPad. People hated this ad. I mean, viscerally hated it. They talked about how angry Steve Jobs would have been if he saw this. They talked about how it broke Apple's legacy of actually being the computer company for creatives. But I think a big part of the reason that the ad struck such a nerve was not about Apple or creativity in general. It's a very specific AI anxiety. Alison Morrow from CNN captures this in her piece today, Welcome to the AI Dystopia No One Asked For, courtesy of Silicon Valley. Basically, the gist of the post is that one of the central fears around AI, hold aside any far-flung fears of AI X-risk and robots taking over from humans and all that sort of stuff, one of the much more current and present fears is the destruction of creative industries. It's AI replacing illustrators, AI replacing writers, AI replacing painters, AI replacing musicians. This is palpable in society right now. It's palpable in lawsuits right now. In fact, if I were a betting man, I'd bet that a bigger portion of people who have a negative feeling about AI have a negative feeling about AI because of those reasons, their concerns around how it impacts human creative industries and human creative pursuits, than fears of Terminator-style futures. Along comes this Apple ad that basically visualizes that exact point. It obliterates the entire legacy of human analog creativity and says, look, here's a tiny thin screen. The response was so significant that Apple actually issued an apology, which is not a normal thing that Apple does. Indeed, the New York Times writes, Apple doesn't make mistakes often and seldom apologizes, but on Thursday, its head of advertising said the company had erred in making a new iPad commercial that showed an industrial compressor flattening tools for art, music, and creativity. Tor Miran, the company's vice president of marketing communications, said, creativity is in our DNA at Apple, and it's incredibly important to us to design products that empower creatives all over the world. Our goal is always to celebrate the myriad of ways users express themselves and bring their ideas to life through iPad. We missed the mark with this video, and we're sorry. In addition to the apology, they pulled all paid media spend from the ad. It's no longer on TV. It's no longer being promoted on the internet. And honestly, for me, the number of people involved in making an ad like this is significantly more than you might think. The fact that none of them noticed that this might cause this reaction shows a very particular tone deafness that is unfortunately exactly what Silicon Valley is being accused of when it comes to this next generation of AI and other technology. That's pretty glaring. Meanwhile, case in point, musical artist Cheryl Crow was also in the news today, somewhat randomly, demanding that lawmakers act now on AI. In a column for The Hollywood Reporter, she wrote, what I can say with certainty is that what we all share as humans all over the planet and what connects us is the human experience made up of emotions that nothing programmed can ever experience. And it is what has documented our existence since the beginning of time in our hieroglyphics and our paintings and our storytelling and in our songs. Interestingly, Crow had said that she wasn't actually planning on writing another album, but it was specifically her fears of AI and seeing what had happened that prompted her to go in and start writing. Now, if you're listening to this show, there's a better chance than normal that you have a more nuanced sense of the relationship between the potential for AI and creativity than perhaps either the blithely it's all going to be great side or the terror-bound it's going to be terrible side. Once you've experienced creating something with AI, you know how inspiring and exciting it can be. However, that doesn't make these sort of fears illegitimate. So anyways, big miss for Apple this week. Although that wasn't the only place they were in the news. Bloomberg is also reporting that Apple is planning to power the development of its AI tools with in-house server chips starting as early as this year. We've been hearing rumors that the company has been designing its own high-end chips for its data centers, and it appears that that is happening sooner rather than later. Writes Bloomberg, Apple's plan to use its own chips and process AI tasks in the cloud was hatched about 3 years ago, but the company accelerated the timeline after the AI craze, fueled by OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's Gemini, forced it to move more quickly. The first AI server chips will be the M2 Ultra, Bloomberg writes, which was launched last year as part of the Mac Pro and Mac Studio computers, though the company is already eyeing future versions based on the M4 chip. As we've said before, it's going to be a steady drip of leaks, I think, between here and WWDC. And if you think you are anticipating what Apple's going to say, it's nothing compared to how much the market wants to know what Apple's going to say. For now, though, that is going to do it for the AI Daily Brief Headlines edition. Up next, the main episode.